are live.
Great. All right. Well, good evening. Welcome everybody to this meeting of the Annapolis Conservancy Board. It is March 10th, and this is our first meeting of 2022. So really excited to get up and running. Apologies, we had to postpone the one from January, but we're excited to get things going today. I think to start us off with this new year, so I know Jack and Patrick, you've just kind of given us a little bit of an intro, but I thought maybe we'll just have all of us kind of go around really briefly, introduce ourselves. And Jack and Pat, if you don't mind giving us another brief intro, that would be fantastic.
Gladly.
But yeah, I'll go ahead and kick us off. So I'm Joanna Ogburn. I serve as the chair of the Annapolis Conservancy Board. And Trudy, I think you and I came on about the same time. I think it's been 5 years. Is that something like that? I know, I can't remember anymore. But it's been a good ride so far. So yeah, I've been with the board for about 5 years. In my day job, I have a small consulting business. I work to sort of build and facilitate collaborative partnerships in the environmental realm mostly. So do a lot of work with watershed restoration work, land conservation, all kinds of fun things around the Chesapeake Bay primarily. And with that, I will kick it over to Trudy.
Hi, everybody. Trudy McFall. As John said, I've been on the board a while, and it's been fun to watch us mature and grow under her leadership. Welcome to the new people. I've spent my entire Maryland career, in fact, my entire working career in the affordable housing field. And actually, I have my news, Jen, is I've just retired as chairman after 27 years of the organization. I founded Homes for America, and I've been there a long time. Before that, I ran the state's housing programs, housing finance programs. So I guess that's my background. So maybe if I make any contribution at all, I sort of know the land of Annapolis, and I live in West Annapolis.
Yeah, you have huge contributions, Trudy, and congratulations. That's exciting news for you.
Big decision, yeah.
Yeah, oh, I bet it was. Oh, more time for tennis, right?
And travel and all the other things, yeah.
Oh, good. That's great.
More time to do my easement inspections.
Yes, number one priority, I'm sure. Oh, good. Oh, great. Well, yeah. Well, Linda, how about you?
Oh, sure. Linda Frost. I joined the board about a year ago, I think. And I live in Eastport. I've lived here.
Oh, you're in Eastport too.
4 or 5 years. I'm on the Back Creek side.
A lot of us,
yeah. So in my day job, I work for a national land conservation organization, Trust for Public Land. So easements and acquiring land for parks and trails and open space is my day job. So I was happy to do something more local where I live. And looking forward to getting to know the new board members too.
Yeah. Well, great. How about Tom?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everybody. My name's Tom Lippert. I've, I guess, part of the corporate memory of the board. I was just taking a look ever since you guys were talking about how many years you've been in. I think I've just turned over 20 years.
Whoa!
So, I should be on my way out, or
it's great to have the memory. It's amazing.
Yeah, hopefully they've got the, they will take care of COVID. I currently work for the Department of Defense in their combat hospital arena. So we've been helping out within the continental United States with trying to make people available. But as a rule, as they say, do what the bosses do. And they've kind of had me confined here for about the last 2 years. I think it's been going on. So, my house looks like a disaster. And one of these days, if I ever do, call it quits, I'm going to be drinking the next 2 years, digging myself out of here. I'm over in the Hunt Meadow area, very close to the residences or Providence residents, that new area that is kind of growing up or starting to try and grow up. And but that's pretty much it for me.
Oh, that is great. Yeah. And so Tom, Karen has she been on as long as you, or are you the longest?
I think I'm the longest.
Okay. I'll have to get, Karen also has a great history and memory of the board. So it's really nice to have that from both of you guys. All right. Well, how about Patrick?
Well, I kind of told a little bit about myself earlier today, or earlier this evening to some of you, but I'm Patrick Browning. Moved to Annapolis in March of 2019 when my wife and I bought a house in the new townhouse community right near the Target
Yes.
shopping center district, right off Old Solomon's Road. For work, I work for a private capital management company based in Potomac, Maryland. So quite a commute for me each day, but it's worth it because I get to come home back to Annapolis and everything that it has to offer, which really makes it my work-life balance palatable. And just really love Annapolis. And at my work, I said private capital management. I'm in-house attorney there doing commercial real estate transactional work. So that's why when I was really wanting to give back to the city of Annapolis, and when I was looking at maybe some volunteer opportunities, this board really stuck out to me because given my background and what I do here, I thought I might be able to provide some of the skills I do during the day to this board. Also, I just really enjoy everything that has to do with commercial real estate. So happy to be able to be a part of this. One of my favorite places to eat downtown is Fox's Den. So you'll likely see me and my wife there on a Friday night or Saturday night. Really enjoy the water. My parents have a place in Tecumseh and Eastport, so we're going in and out of there via boat all the time. So a little bit about myself, and I look forward to getting to know each of you and over the next few years. So.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Oh, that's exciting. All right. I'm really hoping we're going to get back to in-person stuff shortly. It'll be really fun to see everybody.
Nice.
Mhm. All right. Well, Jack, how about you?
Right, everybody. Again, I'm Jack Turner. Lifelong Annapolitan is kind of my claim to fame. I have a background in environmental science and restoration. Currently working for a company that performs asset development for environmental assets. So finding degraded pieces of land and figuring out how to fix them. And part of that is, securing easements on that land. So I thought that my skill set could be helpful to the board. And, living here for my whole life, I really want to do something to give back to Annapolis. So I think this is a great step. Very happy to be here. And this is my first meeting. So I'm familiar with a few people, but very much looking forward to getting to know the rest of the board and looking forward to learning a bit more about what's going on with the Conservancy board. And hopefully we can get together at some point in person in the near future.
Oh, that's great. All right. And Racine, would you want to come off and just say hi briefly? I know you know most folks, but
She's got to pick her computer
I
off.
know I'm asking a lot. I know. She's probably like swearing at me right now.
There we are. There we are. Hi. I'm Racine Hodo. I'm with the city of Annapolis. I am the liaison to the Conservancy board. I work very closely with Jackie Guild. Jackie Guild is the deputy city manager for resilience and sustainability. So, all of that wrapped up in a bow. I mean, that means a lot of different things. So welcome to the board, new members, any questions, send me an email.
Oh, that's great. We're lucky to have you. And let's see who else. Oh, Ashley. Yeah. Do you want to come on and say hi if you're able?
Give me a second. Yeah.
Hey.
I have 2 sick kids, so I'm hiding.
Oh, no.
Anyway, I'm Ashley Leonard. I'm an assistant city attorney. I'm assigned to your board as the legal liaison. You guys are one of 7 boards. that I liaison to. My background is in transactional law and specifically in governments. I've been in governmental law about 15 years now. And I love helping you guys out. So as Racine said, if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you so much. I think we're really lucky to have you and Racine and Jackie helping us out so much. It's a pretty great team. So thank you for all that you guys do at the city. All right. Well, with that, I guess we should get rolling. The first order of business we usually take care of for the board is we take a look at past meeting minutes. And we do have some meeting minutes from December that Jackie took and sent around to everybody. Just wanted to check to see if anyone had any comments, any questions about what's in there. Is anything wrong or missing?
You want to move to movement to adopt?
Sure.
I'll move to adopt.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
I'm going to abstain if that's okay, because I don't think that
Right.
abstention.
That's fine.
Invisible hand raised here on the virtual screen.
Thank you, Tom. I know, I'm sorry, it's a pain. And Patrick, up to you if you want to jump in and.
I mean, I wasn't at that meeting, but
Yeah. You were perfectly fine. Yeah. All right. So Racine, hopefully you got that. We had a first by Trudy, a second by Linda. And for those new to the board, I don't know if you've done board meetings like this before, but that's generally what we do. We'll have a piece of business. We always have meeting minutes that we're reviewing and approving, and then those go on our Annapolis Conservancy Board website for the public to view. I'm sure loads of people are just downloading them like crazy. But that's generally how it goes. We usually start with meeting minutes, and then we'll have a few items on our agenda that are, I would call, kind of new business. And then we usually have a section I just put as updates, which are kind of ongoing things we've been working on for a while and just kind of checking in on the progress of those. And for each item, if we're going to do an official vote, someone will need to make a motion, and then someone will either second that motion or someone will disagree with it. And then we kind of go back to the drawing board again. And I always have to ask the fun question of all in favor, say aye, which is awesome. So that's generally how this rolls. If you have any questions at any point, please don't hesitate to ask. I often mess up and have to ask Racine or Ashley. So don't worry if you have a stumble here and there. I have plenty. All right. So the next item up is chair and vice chair elections. And I would love anyone who's interested to jump in there if you'd like to serve as the chair or vice chair.
Joanna, I apologize. It's Racine.
Hey, Racine.
I'm here. On my agenda, I see September 9th minutes. Did we pass those or?
We actually haven't received those yet, which is absolutely fine. I can check in with you and Jackie again about that. I should have pulled that off the agenda.
Okay. I'll follow up with that.
Yeah. So I think I'm hoping it's okay that we just jumped and passed the December ones. But I figured we could catch back up.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for checking in though. I really appreciate it.
So Joanna.
Yes. Trudy.
I think you have been a great leader and we have made wonderful progress, and I would certainly nominate you to continue as chair if you are game to do that. I think for those of you who haven't been around quite as long as Tom and some of us, we have gotten a great deal more clear process and order. That plus the regular participation of city staff, which we didn't have in the early days. But I think we're on an orderly roll, and you're a great chairman. So I have no idea whether this is something you wish to continue, but I want to say that.
Oh, thank you, Trudy. I
Second
appreciate
that as well.
Chickens. No, thank you both. Oh, and yeah, Tom, go ahead. I think I saw you come off mute. Well,
He remuted.
no, I don't know what that means, but Tom, if you have any thoughts or if you'd like to volunteer to be chair or vice chair, please feel free to do so. And so for you guys probably are aware, but so I currently serve as the chair and Linda has been serving as vice chair. Does anybody else have an interest in serving as the chair of the board?
Is that Tom coming in to volunteer?
It is. I think it's Morse code.
Coming in to echo all the previous statements,
Okay.
I do Joanne has done a good job kind of aiming in the right direction, and also kudos to some of the new blood coming in too. I think they're going to, if Joanne would again care to delve into the same swamp, but they're going along with ideas that I think she has surfaced in the past. So actually, we may be able to accelerate some of the items that she has shown interest in before. So my vote for Joanne is also second, third, fourth, however task I'm in. So keep going.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tom.
Doing great.
All right. And how about vice chair?
I'm happy to continue, but I'm also happy to step aside if someone else would like to be vice chair. And I mean that sincerely.
Well, I think Linda's been a wonderful addition to the board because her knowledge fit with what we do is really a boost too. So I think we should let the new folks have a little time to settle in. We do this once a year.
No, we could.
Don't we? Once a year?
Yeah. Yep. We usually do it every year in January at the start of the year.
I think we've got a good team, and if you're both willing to do it, I think you're exactly the right people for right now to do it. That's for sure.
Wow, that's very kind. Yeah, and Patrick, Jack, any questions or thoughts? Don't feel like you have to have any. I know this is your first go around.
Defer to you guys.
My sole question was going to be how often is the re-election for the chair and vice chair? And Trudy, thank you for answering that before I had to open my mouth.
Yep, yearly basis. So don't
Okay.
worry if you are excited and interested, it will come around quickly. And if you are like the next board meeting, you just want to jump in, do not hesitate. I am sure we can make some adjustments. So don't be shy.
You've both been John, you've been just a trooper to do this. I don't know, for several years now, right? But you've been a trooper.
Oh, thank you. Wow. And I know Karen did it for a very long time prior to a bunch of us. So she ran her course for sure and did a great job there too.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, with that, could I have a motion?
I'm happy to consider my little speech there moving for approval of the slate of you and Linda, if that's for chair and vice chair.
All
Yeah,
right.
this is Tom. I will second on those same two.
All right. Thank you, guys. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I guess I vote. I always forget about that. Okay. All right, Racine, hopefully you got what you needed there. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So another exciting year begins. So next order of business, I know we've talked about this a number of times for those of you who have been with us for a while, but rules of procedure for the board. Super exciting, but important. Now, this is something, so the city code, and I think this is unusual, Ashley could give us the real detail here, but I believe we may be the only board, or we're one of the few boards like us that has to have rules of procedure. It actually, I think, mentions that in the city code. So we decided we needed to get our ducks in a row and get that up there. So I did a little draft based on a couple of discussions we've had. I think maybe the past 2 or 3 meetings we've talked about this, and then shot it over to Ashley, who made a lot of fantastic corrections and edits to it. As you guys will see, the procedures that are in here are really focused on I guess you would say sort of the core roles of the Conservancy board, right? Sort of easement monitoring, and then what happens if there's an issue in an easement, or if somebody has a request to make regarding an easement. And I think that's a great place for us to start. And that's where we've had some things in the past where it would have been nice to have kind of these laid out rules. I just wanted to mention that to say, as we start to move in a little bit more of a proactive direction in terms of maybe looking for new easements or prioritizing those kinds of things, there might be other procedures to add to this document. But I'm assuming that is absolutely fine to amend. There is a little stipulation at the back here about amending this document. And I just wanted to double check that with Ashley. I don't believe these need to be approved by the city council. This is just something that our
Sorry.
board. That's okay.
Now, unfortunately, there's a new code section that went through that has a process for board regulations. So once you guys would approve them tonight, then we would have to get probably Racine or Jackie. They have to be, hold on, I was just looking up the whole code. So
did that just pass? Is that a new thing?
it passed. It took effect last July.
Oh,
So
I missed
it's
that.
a regulation promulgated by any board or commission after,
Okay.
on or after July 1st. You have to have express code approval, which you do. Then you have to publish it on the city's website and a
Okay.
newspaper of general circulation for not less than 30 days to allow for public comment.
Okay.
And then we also have to present it to the Rules and City Government Committee, which is a city council standing committee. And they decide whether they want to have a public hearing on it. And then after all the public hearings, which is about 30 days, you have to do a summary report to city council of what you received. And then it goes into effect.
Wow. Okay.
So I can send you, I meant to send it earlier, got distracted with the kids. I can send you the regulation. It's section 2.04090 of the city code.
I'm going to be honest. I missed that number you just threw out there.
Oh,
You can say.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys all.
Thank you, Ashley.
I'll send all the
Okay.
steps.
Well, that is a new,
Yes,
interesting
it's-
turn. Okay.
Yes, so you need to get, this board still needs to approve them and select them, but then we have to go through about,
A lot of steps.
Yeah, you have to, it's about a 30-day holding pattern or so. But
That's not too bad, actually. That's less than I would have thought.
I mean, I'll walk it through the rules
Okay.
committee. I mean, because to be honest, I've done it with the harbor master. I doubt you'll get much from the website or newspaper. You might.
You don't think?
But you
We
might.
could. Who knows?
Giving them to the city council standing committee will probably get maybe a little bit more feedback, but
Yeah.
it is budget
That's good.
time. And Hillman Garage is going on. And they're distracted by a lot of other stuff. So
It's a lot. It's a busy time.
so-
Yeah. Okay. Well, so with that in mind, so maybe let's just walk through and see if you guys have any edits
see,
or questions.
First step is you guys approve them, and then I
Yeah.
can work with Jackie and Racine on getting the rest of it done.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. Let's see what you guys think. And did everybody get a copy? Did anybody not for some reason? Okay, looks like we're good there. Yeah, how about initial thoughts? What do you think? Feel-
I have an early question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
New board members are get the idea I'm talkative.
That's good. That's good.
I'm just in the Roman numeral 2.
Okay.
and where I thought it was great. I actually learned something from the listing of all the different kinds of easements
good.
that are covered. My question was, and just before I make another comment, is every single site in all of those descriptions under our control, or some of them, but not all of them are under our control? You know, that's an endless question of sort of what we've got, because that gets lost. We never return to that listing. I'm talking about the listing of all the different ways. I thought only some of those fell under our control and some of them didn't. I feel like that ought to be made clear. And then just while I'm got the Zoom for a moment, then I get to A, where it says the things we're supposed to do for all of those things. Well, that's a huge amount. I mean, do we have the infrastructure to look up all those things before we go and we make our inspections? I didn't think we'd ever gotten ourselves to that state. So I felt like for all the precision in this, for things that sometimes never have ever even happened, we go through this endlessly. What's covered by our board and what can we pull up? I mean, could we really go somewhere before we go and visit and pull up what they're calling the last current one? Does that mean what you think we're going to go into? I mean, I don't know that we have the infrastructure to do what 2A is saying. I don't know what's covered, and I don't know if we have the infrastructure to do it yet. You've been working on it, but are we there?
No. So yes. So I'll take those questions maybe one at a time. So the first one was, so the list of the types of properties that we monitor, which is that first paragraph. So, and I just listed this out to try to make it less confusing, because I know this question comes up a lot. And so for Patrick and Jack, so there's hey, Jackie, she just joined us. Hey, so
that was a heck of a meeting. I just got out of the environmental standing committee.
Oh, right, that comes before. Yeah.
It was over 3.5 hours.
Oh, well, you are a trooper for jumping onto this one. I really appreciate it. And we were talking about rules of procedure, so buckle up.
Welcome, Jack, by the way. I was there for Jack's appointment. So
oh, great.
Jack.
Thank you. Hi, Jackie.
Yeah, that was today. That's right. Yeah, and Patrick is our other new board member. I don't know if you see him there, Patrick Brown.
Patrick, yeah, see him there.
Yeah,
welcome.
Great. Oh, it's good to have you. So yes. So as you guys know, this board has a long history. There are a number of easements that are held by the city. So that means it's a private property and the city holds the easement on that property. And there are terms of easement in the deeds of those properties. We have also monitored for a long time a number of properties that are city owned, but don't have any easement on them. They just tend to be sort of natural type properties. Hawkins Cove property is the one that comes to mind that really fits in that particular category. And we'll be talking about that property later on. And then and then there are, I think, some city-owned properties that have an easement that's held by another entity, or I think actually I included that in there because we are moving in that direction with a couple of properties like Hawkins Cove. So the way we tried to write this here, Trudy, was I think we said we would monitor all the properties that are listed on the website. Now, yes, you are correct. That needs to probably be checked again. We have through the years tried to go through that list and pull out anything that seems kind of inappropriate, if it's really the right type of easement for us to be monitoring. Oh, Linda, did you have a question?
Well, just on that point, when I was out with Karen monitoring a property, I forget the name, maybe the Kingsport? Big one.
Big one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were sort of talking about different easements to monitor, and she's kind of pointing out, well, XYZ, this one, that one, those aren't really ones that we monitor. They're like a little piece of open space as part of a development that's not really a conservation property. So is that sort of what you're talking about, Joanna, where we're trying to just really focus in on what are true conservation properties?
Yeah, I think sort of honing that list a little bit. I think that's that might be a good discussion to have, whether or not those should be on the list at all or not.
I don't have any objection to the list because it says it may include. I feel like that paragraph needs to end by saying the ones that this commission, this board monitors are the ones listed on the website, or something that brings specificity, because we got a lot of specified procedures, but we never have really wrapped around specifically what are our charges. I mean, so I know when you issue the easement list for each of us to sign up, we know what they are, but they don't include all of those things, I think. And I don't think these rules should do that, but I think they should say, where do you go to find what we're specifically charged with?
So, okay, so we have in here that the board website shall maintain an up-to-date list of all properties to be monitored by the board. Does that cover it, or maybe we need to
Where is that sentence? Maybe that, no, that's probably pretty
I
good.
think that's the second sentence in that paragraph under number 2, the first paragraph. Did you see like a
hyperlink?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the other just goes on to do some of the broad categories from
Yeah.
from whence they may come. So
From whence?
oh, okay. Well, I think
From
that-
whence?
yeah, yeah, from whatever category they come. Okay. All right.
Good.
Okay. I know. Thank you. I think you captured it. I just didn't get that. Okay.
No, that's okay. And we can restate it. We can do whatever, right? This is the first crack at this. And then, okay, so your second question about what we said we will do when we have.
And that's really B, not A. I see here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I do know
mean,
what you're talking about.
If we all went out tomorrow to visit our sites, could we really access all those things?
So I will say right now, all of the conservation easement terms, so all of the deeds that we have are on the website at this moment. And there are maps on the website for all the properties at this moment, I believe, or
Okay.
it should be all of them. The question we've had is, are those maps 100% accurate as to the exact boundaries of the easement that's on the property? So that's where I'd like to do some updating. What I have talked about, and I have not done this, and this is on me, guys, but Racine set up a Google Drive, a shared Google Drive for our board. And that's where we can we can move everything so it's easily accessible to everybody here to put all of those deed terms kind of in a folder. We can do the same with the maps. And then the other aspect of that is pulling in those old easement inspection reports, which we don't have access to. I have some of the copies since I've been around. I don't have all of them, and I'm not sure where they live at the city. And Racine and Jackie, we can jump back in about that. I know you guys did a search there at some point to find them, and we can talk about how to digitize them. So we have a good chunk of this information, Trudy. I think definitely on me to get that stuff in those folders and make it even more accessible, because the website, it's a little bit confusing to find some of that.
So just one last point on B, and then you'll be happy.
Yeah.
This is where I had most of the comments. I won't
No,
talk.
these are great. These are great. And anybody else ask questions, and yeah.
Okay, so with this perfect world we're working towards, so we find last year's report. What if that report had actions that flowed from it? Wouldn't we also want to be, wouldn't those need to be in a file that we would look at? Suppose they had trash last year and we told them to clean up their act. We should know that before we go back. I mean, any follow-up items, we'd want to see those too, right?
Yes, and hopefully those would be listed on the easement inspection reports. Ideally.
Okay. But you might, since somebody might challenge these rules, if we went back and looked, you might just say the most recent and any follow-up communications, or just some reference that if there had been, because we go into this process of all the ways we're going to write them and follow up and do this. We should be seeing that when we go to inspect this year, right?
Yeah, ideally. I think we talked about that. That'd be nice to be able to see, what in case it's not the same person every year going to the exact same property. It's nice to know what the person saw or felt like they were seeing the previous year, the most recent years. But that was an interesting thing you just said, was maybe we should, not just have that inspection report, but
the Kingsport stuff, all the history we developed over the gate there. You'd want to be able to read that to go look at this famous gate and see how it was behaving relative to our instructions.
I don't even think we looked at that when we were out there. I mean, but I don't know that occurred to us.
No, and I know the staff we've got some pictures of it, but that's a great point, Trudy. Where am I trying to find that here?
Yeah,
so I think
I'm in 2B. Just
2B. Yeah. Okay. So
2B.
It's existing map of the conservation property, the most recent conservation easement inspection report.
And any follow-up.
Yeah,
communications
any
or
additional,
any
yeah,
additional follow-up materials or something.
there we go. That's nice. Follow-up
All right.
materials. And I think that's a really good habit to get into of,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
pulling
that
anything
place
out
that had
of,
all those tires, for example, that we all went and looked
right.
at. Yeah, we should know that when you go to see it again, in case they've moved their tires to some other part of the property.
They're just rotating around the property.
Thank you.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I like that idea. And it's good to keep all that in one place. So I think that's a great,
A lot of infrastructure to build.
it is, and to maintain. And I hope,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, if anybody has any thoughts about that, is it, you know, concerns or, I don't know. We were trying to have sort of another location in addition to wherever the city is keeping them, you know, maybe as hard copies or wherever you guys maintain your records, but have another location that's easily accessible to all board members that we can go to at any point to pull information. And also it's not bad to have a backup, I think was also part of it, just in case, you know, who knows, at some point we get a different liaison or things change at the city, there's a backup, you know, a bunch of information. All right. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
No, I don't have, no, just.
Oh, sorry. I just saw a hand movement. Let's see. Any other comments or questions on parts of
Yeah,
this?
maybe before we get going further, you mentioned at the very beginning that might have left out maybe procedures for solicitation of properties. I was just wondering, what was the thought process behind that? Because after reviewing the rules, that was like one glaring thing as well. What if someone does want to either donate property, or if I want to go out and try and solicit an easement, how do we go about doing that? Is there a reasoning why we decided just not to put that in here at this moment and maybe amend the rules at a later date?
I'll take that one. Yeah. So we haven't gone through that, Patrick, is the answer. And that's not a great answer for you, but so yeah, I think we would need to really have a pretty good in-depth discussion there and really think through all the processes. And there would be some stuff that would be on the city's end they would need to take care of, obviously, like some of the due diligence requirements. And then there would be things on our board's end. And I do think we need to write that up. And I think now, knowing that it's quite a process to get these things approved, before we thought it was just, we approve them and we would amend them, you know, kind of however, whenever we see fit. But with this longer process, it might make more sense for us to get all of those things ironed out before we move this forward. Part of the reason for trying to get this up a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
No, I was just pushing my eyes up or my
Oh,
glass.
damn it. I'm sorry. I'll stop calling on you.
Sorry.
I think Jackie does have a hand up.
Yeah, did I hear you correctly to say that we've never gone through the process of acquiring property from somebody who wanted to donate? Because that's not
Just
true.
as a board, like our board has never had a discussion about like, you know, if we identified a property, what are the steps we would do? And then what are the steps the city would do? I know you guys have acquired or donated. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's the recent one, and Ashley, maybe you can help me remember. It's been going on for so many years. There's the couple that are trying to donate property to the city where their family is, and it's been going on forever. I know Gary was working on it at one point, and
I can't think of the name of it, but I know
describe the process.
Yeah, it's the
for
Bossums.
everybody.
I
Awesome.
got that resolved. It's our land, but I don't know if we've actually put a conservation easement on it as of yet.
So
But we own it now.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Is
so
that
it was the
something-
process of acquiring it that was taking forever. So now we have it. So
Yeah.
Ashley, can you describe for the board what the process would be to put a conservation easement on that?
Well, since it's a city property,
We'd have to find another entity.
yeah, I mean, it's generally I think when we've discussed if it's city owned, we were going to have someone else as sort of the holder of the easement versus us. I know we discussed that with other ones, but I've never done it. The only other time, I'm trying to think of anything. So we do a lot of conservation easements that come through the development process where a third party is giving to us, and that's done through the permitting process. City conservations, I think the only ones that sort of come close are lands that we brought with program open space. They don't have the same
Okay.
sort of restrictions, the same level, but they do have some level of protection in them. For example, we bought 20 some lots off the Parkside Preserve
Mhm.
developer with program open space funds. But it's, again, program open space does have restrictions, but it's not the same level of conservation.
Right, and we, and then with Crystal Spring, well, no, sorry, you're calling the wrong name now. The Villages of Providence Point, like Ashley said, since it is, that's private property, but we had Scenic Rivers Land Trust hold the easement on part of it because we did, it was so small and it was like the tree, it was, no, it was the larger part of it, but we had Scenic Rivers Land Trust hold
They're
the
holding that. Yeah.
easement on that.
Could I just suggest, since these are the rules for us, not the city and not all this process that we're going into, I mean, I just think there should be a last, I think Patrick's point was excellent, just a section at when we're done with all these other sections that just describes that it's mostly the city's role to do, you know, what's our board role in it? Surely we would get an opportunity to look at what the city wants to do. And I just think something that at least describes the relationship of, we're not the ones going out and negotiating the deals or our, you know, something that just speaks at least says this is one of our dream functions. Try to be more activist.
Yeah.
Is it
I
as
don't think
simple as-
we wouldn't put all the city's process in our board, just how when and how we connect, would we? Well, okay, you can do it.
I don't know. No,
Okay.
I'm not sure. It might be good to lay out just the basics. So if someone is interested in donating, they have an idea of what that process may look like, or we could link to what that would be. You know, just that if you do that, generally there'll be a survey and, you know, whatever other, you know, kind of key steps that need to happen on the city's end.
That info would be nice to put on your landing page too.
Yeah, just so they, you know, if you're kind of interested, you know, there's steps.
Yeah, but I presume the board in that process would have an advisory role to the city as both early, during, and after we acquire a new property, I would think, don't we? I mean, anyway, I think adding that's a really good point.
I think it's
to me that we need rules of procedure because it's called for in the code. We've been in existence for a while and we don't have these. We need to probably get some established for our most basic function. And the functions that really need to be deliberative and treat people fairly. And I think that these are, you know, it contains the key elements, and, you know, we will have to look at in the future if we do other type of easements, if those procedures need to be in the, you know, become part of that, what really needs to be in the rules of procedure, you know, in the future. And I don't know that that's really clear. Not everything has to be so formalized, I think, in terms of our activity.
Well, you bring up an interesting question, Linda. Yeah. What has to be in this document? What can be more of a, you know, something separate, kind of, not sure what we would call that document, but yeah, what needs to be in here and kind of when is a good question. Yeah, so let me ask that back to you guys. So especially for those who have been around a while with this conversation, do you feel like you'd like to get what we have currently in this document, get it cleaned up, ready to roll, and get this thing passed now? Or would you rather, let's take a little bit of time and get that other section added in there about pursuing new easements and then pass it forward?
Well, my suggestion was put it in there as a Roman numeral, but don't beat it to death. Just that it's a primary city responsibility in which we're an advisory entity and receiving entity. You know, to me, a broad statement would do it. That doesn't have to be as detailed as all of this, but, because yeah, I don't think we should spend another year. We've been a long time getting this far, and it sounds like it's a long process ahead, so.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Just really quickly, so I reviewed the section of code that Ashley noted about posting the
Nicely
rules.
done.
It's actually not that cumbersome. The board has to publish them on the website and newspaper. Sounds straightforward enough for 30 days. And then we have to, then the City Council Rules and Government Committee has the option, they may elect to hold a public hearing. So, and like, I can't remember who said, but there's a lot of other things going on. And I don't know that the Conservancy Board is a highly controversial body. So,
Come on now.
and I think that, I mean, really that's about it. I mean, our regulations could be superseded by an ordinance that passes, but I don't think it's as cumbersome as it sounded. It's when Ashley first ran through it, I was like, oh my goodness, it was like insurmountable. But I don't think it's actually that difficult if we do want to change in the future or propose a change or an addition or deletion or whatever.
Okay. So in looking at that, go ahead, Ashley.
I was just going to say, I'm trying to think, I can't remember who, they just switched all the standing committees, but if you were to talk to the alderpersons that are on that standing committee sort of in advance, sort of brief them about it, it would probably make the process really smooth. They do all like to talk about it, but if they're informed of it, they get a copy of it in advance. You can make the process way less painful than it could be, but I don't think it will be for you guys.
Okay. And would that be something you could just do sort of via email, Ashley, or phone call, or would it be best to go in front of the committee to let them know?
It depends. I mean, I could always present it to them at first, work with making sure that they get copies in advance of their meeting and see what they're thinking. All their meetings still are virtual. I think rules meets at 4 or 4:30. I'm trying to remember. But I mean, it would be, you don't all need to come, but someone from your group, because that would be a quorum, but someone from your group could go, and maybe Jackie or Racine or me. And that way we could just answer any questions they might have.
Okay.
I'm ready to move on to Roman numeral 3 if anybody else is.
Yes, I just want to check real quick, see if anybody has other thoughts. So Trudy sounded like, let's see if we can get a broad statement in here. Jack pointed out the process isn't super cumbersome, so maybe we don't need to worry about trying to get everything in right now. I'm guessing that's kind of where you were heading with that general thought process, Jack. Is that correct? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, Tom, Linda, Patrick, any thoughts from your end, or Jackie, Racine, you guys as well?
Well, you didn't ask. I'm sorry. But I just want to ask comment. It seems to me that for so long we've sort of been back and forth about, do we have a role? Do we have a right to be consulted by the planning department when they're creating a thing? And that putting, or at least a broad general reference that we have a role that involves consultation with us as the city works on any new additions to easements. This is a chance to get that down in a more official way, because we just go back and forth with each new planning director trying to convince them, don't forget us, and then they forget us, and then we tell them again. And to me, it's a chance to get it said.
So I want to add that in here as well.
One of our duties, and we have a role, just even if it's the city's primary job and responsibility, but we're consulted as in the process, that we think an appropriate easement area meets, whatever. I mean, just something that's almost a philosophical statement, if it's not a great detailed one, because we just talked about that so many times over the years about convincing that we're here as a board with knowledge, and we should have a role to be consulted early on and throughout the process of creating new easement areas. And I just think it's a chance to say it in rules that we shouldn't pass up.
Okay. So
So I
that's
think it kind of goes to Patrick's point. There needs to be another Roman numeral, and it's about the new stuff and what the procedures are. And so I don't know if we want to, kind of table this and work on it some more. That might be a good idea. I have a pretty big question about the last section on procedure for request of easement changes. So
okay.
I'm not sure I would vote in favor tonight. I think this needs a little bit more tweaking.
No, that sounds good. All right. And let me just check in with Tom, because I see you're off mute there, Tom.
Yeah, I agree. It brings up a very good point. I mean, over the years, we have kind of fought for, okay, fine, what do you want us to do? We can make this a way to avoid that conversation in the future, don't mind going through, all this drill again, but to have what the mayor and the council believes that our role should be, if it is strictly in a consultant role and we are representatives of the city, then, that says a lot. If they want us to actively go and pursue, into their constituents' backyard, so to speak, on trying to obtain things, we may very well be crossing into the playground of some of the other boards. So, coming up with something definitive that we can march from, where we're at to where it is that they see us going, I think we really would benefit in the long run from having additional clarification.
Yeah, and those
that's-
pieces, I will say, we've presented to the council and the Environmental Matters Committee before, Tom. We've presented kind of, here's, the things that we've traditionally done, and here are the steps that we'd like to start taking, be more proactive. And they've always they've supported all of those kind of directions that we've talked about pursuing.
If this document that, they want everybody to go back out and, get additional clarifications and posting, et cetera, is going to cover that in order to give that latitude, then, yeah, fine, let's go and pursue that. But it should be what, that we're not going to, in turn, take something that will then get lost for another year or so as it is bickering back and forth, either with a happy to glad type definitional change, or just basically saying, okay, fine, what do you want us to do? Okay, we're here to help. And if you, council, want us to do this, we're just tickled to death to be able to do that. And we'll come up with ways in order to make, to facilitate that for y'all. But if you don't want us playing, in that arena at all, before we go through all this drill, it sure as heck would be nice to do. So with our legal representation, not quite sure how you'd recommend that we, definitively do this, but it's kind of like, the city is how old now? Hundreds of years, and we're still going through some of the very basics. It would be nice to be able to get something definitive so that we can all march on smartly and actually, bring to fruition a lot of the good things that are being kicked around the table tonight.
I think I'm following you, Thomas. I feel like what you're saying is, maybe before spending a lot of time, like consult again, and maybe Joanna, and you said we've consulted, we've got input, and they do support that we're more proactive in soliciting conservation easements. Can we maybe put together a paragraph for a procedure to be in this and talk to a couple of folks in the city and elected officials to say, is this in keeping with where your support lies? We're proposing this to our.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we need to, to go through the effort to, to search to come up with it, without clarification that the people that are going to be listening to it have also gotten some buy-in. They need to tell us what's going on, because otherwise we're just, smacking our heads against the wall. And, we all have, I'm sure, more than enough not to want to do that again. So if there's a way in order to get some of the power brokers to say, yep, boy, this is really what we'd like you to do, and then we'll take that and say, great, stand by, we will give you what you need to the best of our ability. But not to, okay, fine, if we want to push an agenda, we've over the years pushed an awful lot of rope, and not, unfortunately, getting past some of the people who either have a perceived ownership or have a greater voice to be able to get things where they wanted to. I mean, I think Joanne raised a good issue about going through the different, planning and zoning, who does what, what is the agenda? I think Trudy mentioned that as well. And, we keep going and doing what we think it is that we're supposed to go and do, only to get it shot down. And then, we have to go back and try it all again. And that ends up normally where it, is going to die until, the next set of elections.
Well, I have a different perspective about how you move things in a in a prompt way, which is they say we've been to the committees, we've had general discussions. I think we should write down what we think our roles should be, and then test it out. Sending around trying to figure out who's the power brokers and what do they think will be long gone. We know what we've been over this ground many times, what we think our general role should be. I think we should just write it down, and I really think it ought to go in these rules as a reference so that it's clear that this is one of our roles. Right now, you would think it wasn't even one of our roles at all because it doesn't appear in these things. So, and I agree with Linda. We're not going to get this into perfect shape tonight because she has more comments and I have a few more on 3 too. So 3 also. So, I think we should just try to write down what we've been saying all these times and put it in the rules and see what people say.
And the Roman numeral, the procedure for, soliciting and considering, or just considering new conservation easements.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I think we should have the role to solicit, and we should put that down and let somebody say, no, we disagree. That's not your role. It'll be a document to show to all the pertinent departments and people. And no, to me, that makes me excited about doing all this process, because finally we'll get to something that's a real live unresolved issue for us. And some of this elaborate procedure won't happen again in our lifetimes, so we've detailed very carefully things that aren't our daily fare, but our daily fare is our own inspections and what we do with them, and what's our role in new easements. Really, that's what most of our time has been spent on. So anyway, I'm talking too much.
No. This is a good discussion. So it sounds like I think from all I'm hearing, it seems like let's go ahead. Let's take a crack at getting a couple of these paragraphs down about considering new conservation easements, and the one Trudy mentioned, which was well, I guess this is part of that. And so there's multiple pieces with considering new conservation easements. There's ones that we may want to go out and solicit and kind of have, pursue. There are ones that come through the development process that the Planning Commission deals with. And that's sort of a separate way they come to us, but also part of that considering new conservation easements piece. And so let's take a crack at that. I know there are other questions we have about this document. I want to get to those. Before we do that, I just want to toss out that I will definitely be asking if there is someone here on this board that is willing to help craft that additional paragraph or couple of paragraphs and tidy this up based on discussions here today. It may need a little help in moving that forward. So you can mull that over. Oh, go ahead,
I'll write some general thoughts. They won't be in the right language or perspective to go into this, but I would certainly be willing to write a few paragraphs about what I think we've tried to do, and for you, Joanne, to look at. You would know better than I, but if that my role is first cut at things,
I'd be
happy to try that. I don't.
Okay.
I don't feel very expert in that, but if you would take mine then and then maybe one of our lawyers could help us. on our-
Yeah, and I saw Jack and Linda, it looked like, had a comment there. Jack, you want to go ahead, and then Linda, I'll jump to
Sure.
you.
Really quickly, and I'm not volunteering to do this. I'm happy to help if I'm voluntold. But I really just had a suggestion in that I'm not sure how this document was drafted and who was involved with it exactly, but on the Google Workspace, which it sounds like the board is transitioning to, there are really very good tools for suggesting changes to documents. So my suggestion, if everyone here is not familiar with that, that is a great way for everyone to collaboratively add their suggestions to a document without actually changing the document. And then whoever is the ultimate editor can go ahead and then, input those changes. And that way we get everybody's input. They can do it at their own convenience. And then we can, come back as a group and discuss the suggestions to the document. That's all I got.
I'm happy to be the person that collects those comments and tries to formulate them.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Joanna, are we up and running on Google Drive?
Yeah, we have it. So we can put it in there and share around that
Okay.
link. I don't know. So let me ask everybody, are folks comfortable working in the Google, in a Google Doc using suggestion mode? We can try to write some instructions down or.
Super easy. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can. I'm like
That's the spirit.
technology hates me, I fear sometimes. But it's in the upper right-hand corner, you can say it says suggested, and you just click that button. And that's what I use most of the time. Is
So,
because we're working on it.
I
a
mean,
lot of people.
I'm not a huge fan to actually write something that way, but I'm happy to work in that. And then if there's anyone that would just rather send me things, I'm happy to plug them into the Google Doc too. Because I know, like, I like to write in Word, but I work a lot in Google Docs with other parties. So like Trude, if you want to just add a couple sentences, you just want to email them, that's fine too. I can plug it into the Google Doc.
That's my style. You got me right.
Okay.
Email.
Well, this is awesome. All right. So, so Linda, it sounds like you'll kind of run herd on this, and Trudy's going to send you some ideas.
Well, and you, I feel that, I'm just trying to help at a very baseline because you really know
That's
much
great.
more about the process of how we've worked with the city. And mine will be a philosophical statement probably.
That is
I'll
fine. Yeah, and for anybody else that wants to provide them, you can get up with Linda and figure out the best way to do that. I'll go ahead and post this document on Google Docs. I don't think there's any problem with that. Ashley, let me know if there is, but I don't feel like there's an issue with that. And I'll send out the link. All right, so I'm putting it down.
No issue. Did I miss anything? Sorry, everybody was crying for a minute.
No, you're good. I thought you were coming on to tell me I was going to do something illegal. So no, we're good.
Everybody started crying at the same time. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
At your house, I'm assuming is what you're
Yes.
saying.
Not in my workplace. Yes.
Are we crying? Yeah, go ahead, Racy.
I suggest that you have a goal date to have this pulled together, whether it's before or at your next meeting, that you have like a goal as to when you're going to have this done. And then, maybe discuss it at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Good idea. Let's do end of March. To give input.
And then
So we have a little bit of time to kind of read and digest the final before the next board meeting.
that sounds great. All right. So input and suggestions, we can put that into the Google Doc itself or get up with Linda and send it to her. And then Linda, after that deadline of March 31st, are you able to take it, turn it into a final draft and then shoot it around? Awesome. Okay. These are all great suggestions. Great work, guys. Okay.
Can I make are we gonna,
Oh, go ahead.
We got a couple.
I just wanted to make a comment about Roman numeral 3. It sounds like we've got a process for wordsmithing, but it bothered me to find our easement inspection roles folded into the bigger things, like when somebody's outside challenging. I know you said, we're to go to Roman numeral 3 and it's guidance for us, but I felt it put us into I just feel like there needs to be a process for the easement inspection process pulled out. This is like all the details we went through when we had the outside Eastport debate and all of that. And I just feel like we get lost in there, that we had a process where we inspect them annually and then we look up these things and then we send them. And then what happens if we find something? I mean, we get tied up in an awful lot of expectation that we're in a high complaint territory like Eastport, with emotions and all of that.
Kingsport.
And I just feel like a section that maybe is just us, even if it's a little repetitious, but says, here's what we do. And then we talked about how we would write the owner, the managers, whoever we know, what we found, again, those things, Jenna, that we've spent a lot of time over the years talking about what is our process. I just would find a nice, clean, here's what the board does process, that we share the responsibility and we do easements and this is what we do, and not tangle us up, because this is like any individual. So this is like the guy in the gate kind of issue. And I could find us in here, but anyway, Linda, maybe you can look at that. I just feel like pulling out us, the board, what happens when we find, what do we do, and what happens when we have a concern, some of which I hope might be a little sweeter than some of this. I mean, this is pretty litigious. What is that word? Litigious, thank you. And I don't think of our process as needing to be that. Usually we, they clean up your tires and they clean up their tires, anyway, that was kind of what bothered me overall, that I wouldn't know quite how to edit 3 to do that. I just feel like maybe 3 should be us. What's the board process? What do? We look at the ones on the website, we just plain simple, what are our steps? And then procedures for anybody else, because really Roman numeral, I think you were mostly thinking about it as, what do we do when somebody wants us to take action because they're seeing something that's concerning them. And that bothered me to have us all scrambled in quite that much detail. I don't think our process is very, very rocket science, but I think it would just, putting it down step by step, what the board does with the inspections would be. And the city's role in our inspections, the city's role in a controversial thing might be different than what is the city roles in our inspection. We kind of operate without involving a lawyer, or a city, even city liaisons, I've never seen a city liaison go to a site with any of us, I just think by putting them together, you made our process more complicated than it needs to be. Does a city liaison I never had a city liaison go with me to look at a site.
Jan used to. The first guy that was with us when I first came on board, Jan, I'm getting his name
that
wrong.
was never a
It was a long time
requirement.
ago. No. There's no specific role that's ever been laid out for city.
We are just happy to
liaisons
get our site inspections done and our reports in, Anyway, that was my thought. I was uneasy with finding us lumped in as the same process as a controversial item. That's all.
All right. Does that make sense, Linda?
Did I make any sense at all, Linda?
Yeah, no, I think that was, no, it's a great point. All right, let's see what else we've got in here that pops up for folks. I know, Linda, you had some concerns about if there are requests for changes in the easement terms. Do you want to go there? Does anybody have anything else for sections 3 or what's the other one? Yeah, so that's the main one. So anybody else have other comments or questions for addressing easement concerns or easement enforcement, which at that point it really moves to the city purview. Okay, if not, yeah, let's go ahead. So Linda, request for changes in easement terms. Take it
So
away.
I have to caveat this because, there's the type of easements that we currently hold, which are much more like development easements. And then there's the type of conservation easements that I work on in my day job. So on conservation easements, there's no changing of easement terms. I mean, it's a document that's set in stone. There's a reservation of rights, of reserved rights, that may need permission to exercise or notice. So if the easement sets up that at a future date they can do X, Y, Z, and they have to give notice, there's giving notice. But so it was a little curious to me to see this section on requesting changes to the easement terms.
Mhm.
Even in a development easement, I mean, I thought that, the theory would be, it was negotiated, bargained for at the time. I mean, the trade-offs were bargained for, the terms are set in stone, and unless the easement sets up that you can elect to do something in the future, I don't know why we would use the phrase change the easement terms.
Yeah, I think I can try to give you a little bit of the history of sort of where this suggestion had come from. I think initially, so there's kind of two things that have happened that, and I've been there when one has happened. I wasn't there for the other, but one thing that has happened, and this has happened in our bigger easements, where it's in the Kingsport easement, right? It's a very large easement over a large portion of that development. And some of the folks there who live there now have come to the board and said, hey, we're interested in maybe turning this area that's in the easement into, and this may not be the exact example, into a dog park, or into a basketball court, or into blank, 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 or we'd like to put a kayak rack in this portion of the easement. And in some cases, it's a little bit clearer than others whether or not that should or shouldn't be allowed. And so maybe the word changes is not, maybe that's just what's wrong with this here. It's just need to be a different phrase. But it's like when someone who owns the property that's eased comes and says, hey, we'd like to do this. Is that allowed? If not, and so maybe there's a distinction there.
Yeah.
The second thing that I have been there for is when there was a large stream restoration project done, again, on the Kingsport easement. And so the board, in that case, wanted the folks that were doing the stream restoration project to come and just sort of let us know what's happening, how are you doing it, let folks provide some feedback, and give that sort of general nod of approval before moving forward with a very large project like that, where there's lots of equipment coming in, lots of trees coming out and things going back in, and all great stuff in the end. But there, the board at that point, I remember folks kind of said, we'd like to know when that's being proposed, and just want to double check it, with the easement terms. So those are the two examples, I think, where this grew out of. So hopefully that gives kind of better an idea. And I think you're right, Linda, that changes suggest something that you don't necessarily want to suggest when there's a set easement. So I don't know what the phrasing there is.
Okay.
But anybody else, please jump in here as to, your thoughts or background on conversation related to this.
I think, go ahead, Trudy.
No, just I was going to say, John, good explanation of what you were trying to capture there. It helps me a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
I think we probably
Yes.
should call it an exercise of rights or seeking approval to do something. I mean, I have to think on it. I'm not in the bed headspace, but I think changes is wrong. And I think Linda is right that we need to rephrase it to requesting permission to exercise the right under the easement, or requesting permission to see if something is allowable, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that, Patrick?
Like permitted uses or something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys are You're getting it. It's good.
They're like alterations or modifications. You need some word that isn't as big as change. but-
Changes. Yeah,
Yeah, but,
I agree.
and maybe some examples that clearly say we're not talking about boundaries or, some
Mhm.
examples of sheds or courts or, walkways or something that suggests what we mean by it maybe would help. I don't know.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, we do get some of those.
Yeah, those are the things I've heard of coming up
Yeah,
for my time.
yeah.
Those are good, really, really good points there. Let's see, anything else that's popping up for you guys? Just general concerns or general thoughts for the document? Sorry, excuse me. And this won't be the last crack at it, so don't worry if.
I think I might provide some edits in the Google Doc, but
Oh, that sounds great.
Likewise, suggestions coming.
Looking forward to
nothing-
it.
Nothing massively substantive, but maybe
That is
Patrick and I
okay.
can grab a cup of coffee
yeah, that'd be great.
as the new board members. And no, I think Joanna, I'm assuming that it's you that did the lion's share of drafting this. I don't know, but
Yes, and you will not hurt my feelings. Don't worry. This is not, I don't feel like this is a masterpiece here. So please jump.
I think you did great work.
Jump in. It was just a stab.
it's clear that a lot of thought has gone into it, and it is very well thought out. And I think that it really does lay a good foundation. I think this has been a very good discussion on what does work and, some thoughts that people have. And I mean, just as far as Roman numeral 5 goes for changes or permissions or whatever it'll eventually be called, it seems like it gives the board and or the city the latitude to recommend or to say, no, you can't do that. Right. So no matter what someone is proposing, it seems like all of it is
Yes.
may. So, nothing is guaranteed. So it's, I think generally it's, I'm not a lawyer, but generally it seems like it gives both the city and the board an out to say, no,
Yeah.
this is not an approved modification or whatever it ultimately ends up being
Right.
called. But
Yeah, and I will say I should also have mentioned that Ashley did a great job sort of going in here before we sent it out to everybody again and making sure it was kind of appropriate, the right legal
Yeah.
terms were used.
Yeah,
so
I'm
she gets
just-
a lot of credit.
Formatting and editing. Substantive stuff, I defer to you as long as it doesn't violate any laws.
That's an important caveat. And yeah, and one thing, hopefully I mentioned this to you, both Patrick and Jack, but I'll just point it out again, just in case, because this is something that's come up before and just want to make sure we're all super clear on this. What you were just referring to, Jack, the board may do this or something to the city. Ultimately, we are considered a recommendatory body to the
Right.
city, right? So if the city comes back and says, you know what, we're not letting that happen, that is sort of their right. They are the official holders of these easements or holders of the properties. So I always just like to make sure, because I know when I first came on, we had a lot of discussion about that, sort of who had what control and enforcement and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we've got all that straightened out. And it's fairly clear.
But the good news historically is we don't go around having disputes with the city.
No, it's no. It's been a
That's
great
not-
relationship.
Not
No.
been our history. We work carefully and they're respectful of our advice and recommendations.
Absolutely.
And Jackie keeps us on the straight and narrow anyway.
Bye.
Oh, you do a great job. All right. Well, this has been a really good discussion. I thank you guys so much. And for really jumping into some of the details here. I really appreciate it. And to Linda, for jumping on board to sort of be the lead of this going forward, and everybody else for providing your suggestions and comments over the next month. It's great. So thank you so much. It's awesome.
I think, John, I think we haven't done anything that'll be much more helpful to the board itself than this, to have it clearly articulated, all of these pieces. I learned
Yeah.
things just reading this, that
Oh,
I
great.
didn't know which categories that our easements came from. And, I think it's going to be very helpful.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Worth the energy, I think.
I think so too. I know
Yeah.
it's always a bit painful in the middle, but it'll be good in the end.
Yeah.
All right, so that is great. Thank you guys. I don't think we have anything on necessarily to vote on there. The next couple of things, I don't want to keep us too long here, but just wanted to talk briefly about some of our goals for 2022. I usually try to do this in the beginning of the year. And a couple of things I guess I'll bring up, and I think we've got some good news on that front. One of our goals over the past year and a half had been to get our membership up to full board level, which we have done. So that is huge. Just wanted to point that out. Congratulations, everybody. I'll certainly send a thank you over to Karen and others who have really reached out and tried to bring in some new members. Also to folks at the city and Hillary over there for just keeping that process going. I think that's great. And I just want to take a moment to celebrate that. It's hard sometimes to get volunteer boards full and keep them rolling. So thank you guys for making that happen.
Hey, Joanna, I'm counting 7 people and with Karen, and who is this a 7-man board?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right.
Now you have any questions? Yes, it's 7 people. Sorry. I froze there for a second. Yes.
Yeah.
So then another thing that had been on our list for the last year was this getting everything down, rules of procedure, making sure we've gotten it all down on paper and moving forward. So we're well on the way to doing that. So I think that's going to keep rolling. That's great news. 2 other things that we have been talking about and working on for a while, the Greenway Map and then pursuit of new easements. And this will start to kind of move us into some of the updates here. But I just want to check in with you all. So the Greenway Map, and Jackie can jump in here as well. So I'll give a very brief kind of history here for everybody, make sure we're up to speed. So the Greenway Map is something that's been talked about for a while with this board, as well as the Annapolis Environmental Committee, excuse me, and other people in the city, working for the city and just interested in it. Wanting to have a document that really lays out what are our priorities when it comes to either conserving areas throughout the city, but also potentially kind of restoring, improving areas as well for ecological reasons, for recreational connections, community benefit, all those great things. And so that's kind of where we started, was trying to develop just that map that lays out, here are the key places in the city that are already eased, that are already natural, that are already functioning as good connections. Let's get those down. And here are places also where we'd like to see some additional connections or, restoration done. So we have a very base map that's been created, thanks in part to a lot of folks on this board. We work really closely with the city and Sean Wampler, the GIS department, to do an interactive tool. We send around to all the boards and different groups with the public to get their input to develop this map. It is right now, I believe, part of an appendix to the comprehensive plan. And I know, Jackie, there's been some thoughts maybe to move that back into a central portion of the comprehensive plan update that the city is doing right now. We can dig into that probably at our next meeting, I'm going to guess. And then recently there was an Environmental Matters Committee meeting, and Jackie, this is where I'll sort of pass it over to you, where folks on that committee were interested in our board, I think, taking maybe some of the next steps with this map and developing some kind of a 4-year plan for it. And Jackie, I will pass it off to you. And I'll also say that I reached out to Rob Savage, who's on the council and that Environmental Matters Committee, and he's planning to come to our next board meeting to really dig into that with us. But
Okay, so I was not able to attend the Environmental Commission meeting. Racine was there. However, that was a holdover from another meeting where they said they wanted to see a 4-year plan for the Conservation Board, such as where your targeted easements would be, targeted properties, and any other priorities that you have. And then I was speaking with Eric Lashinsky today, and I should have asked him about this. I can follow up with him tomorrow and find out if it's an appendix or if it's going to be incorporated into the sensitive areas. And there's there's also a park section where it could go in as well, because we'd like to make some of the new parks with conservation easements on them, and other existing parks that don't have conservation easements on them. I know that Truxton Park is one big one that would be benefit from a conservation easement. But I could update you real quick on Hawkins Cove, because you asked me where that stood. It's still, we still don't have an RFP out on that. Hopefully next week to get that going. But until there's really a concept plan, we can start discussions about a conservation easement on it. Public Works and Planning and Zoning have put together like a little map of what's city owned and where we'd have to, et cetera, so that we know the boundaries. So we know that now. It's
That's
more
great.
city owned than I thought it was, some of that
Mhm.
area up on the hill where the trails are.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that portion of it. Apparently it is. So we can start talking about that, but we can't say exactly what is planned for that until we have a firm on board, a contractor on board, and we have a further developed design than we do right now. All we have is a concept plan.
Gotcha. All right.
But I'll follow up with Eric on what he's thinking. So I did ask Eric today when he thought there would be a draft plan available. So he's planning to get a draft plan by the end of this month, but then it will be circulated among some of the departments, including me, and mostly planning and zoning and public works to get a little bit more input into. And then they make it public probably later in the spring and get comments on it. So there's still a little bit of time, here he's trying to decide what the final
Okay.
format looks like. So now would be, the time for me to follow up. I did not ask him about the Greenway, so I can follow up with them.
And so the plan you're referring to is the comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan, 2040 Annapolis ahead, as it's called. And yeah, so you can find it, the draft plan is up, and his presentation is also up on the city website. You can also see everyone's comments they've written in on different sections. There was a lot of comments on it.
That's great. All right, so that's where the Greenway map sort of stands now. We have a draft base of it, and then this board has talked about sitting down, taking a look at that map and identifying our top priorities. Hawkins Cove has really been the very top of that list, which we're moving forward on slowly, but to start to look at some of those other ones and maybe think about what are the options and what would this board like to do there.
Yeah, and then the other one you might want to think about is Cars Beach. That looks very close to being a reality that the city could get that property. So, that's the property that the Maritime Museum, on Back Creek, the educational center with the big parking lot off of, I'm spacing on my road that it's off of Carrollton Road.
Bembe Beach?
It turns into Bembe Beach later.
Oh,
But I
Edgewood.
guess,
Edgewood.
sorry, Edgewood, thank you. Edgewood Road that turns into Bembe Beach. I think it's Bembe Beach by that point. So that's the Maritime Museum's education center there on Back Creek. And it has a big parking lot at the end of it. And across Bembe Beach Road is a parcel of land,
Okay.
4 to 5 acres that the city's
That's
working to acquire. It has a planned townhouse development on it right now, but
So it's that property. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
so
I
that's
got you
looking
now.
very good for the city to acquire. And nothing's done, of course, nothing is ever done until it really is completely done. But the last piece of funding may be available to the city. So that would be a prime waterfront location. The idea is to turn it into a park. And the public
Who's
access.
running point on that discussion for the city, Jackie?
What's that?
Who's running point on that discussion, that negotiation for the city?
City managers and mayor. Yep.
So that's a parcel that's being acquired by the city. Is it separate from where the condos are going to go?
It's actually townhouses. that
I'm
would go
sorry.
there.
Sorry.
So that townhouse development was going through all the various committees, planning commission
Right.
and everything, as if it's going forward. But at the same time, these negotiations are going on, and they're well aware of that.
Okay.
You know,
Interesting.
this probably doesn't fit here, but I wondered if folks had ever gone on the city's, any of us went on the city's website and read the description of our Conservancy board there. The thing, I
Wow.
didn't write it down, so I may not get it exactly right, but it says one of our charges is to help encourage and increase the parks and recreational activities of the city. And unless I was hallucinating the night I thought I read that, and I thought it was a broader goal than we've ever even really talked about our goals being. But anyway,
It's in the city code for your board.
is it? It's pretty broad.
Yes.
Am I
It's
not?
very broad. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something, I just looked at your guys' city code, and there's something in your city code about recreational goals.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting.
Well,
We
but
don't
please
have
do
enough
it.
to do now. We'll start
I know.
working on new recreations areas.
That's right.
Mm.
So, all right. So I think with this Greenway plan, so we'll have Rob Savage at our next meeting in May, and we can really dig into what they're thinking they would love to see us do as a 4-year plan for the Greenway and all that good stuff. And it sounds like Jackie's going to check in with Eric Lashinsky, who's a planner with the planning department for the city, to see where that lives right now with the comprehensive plan. We all thought it was pretty important to get it in there, and also to request that one of the strategies moving forward is that the city use that to begin to develop a full kind of green space greenway plan for the city of Annapolis. So those were 2 things we were really pushing really hard in the comp plan from our board, and it's gone really well. I have a question for Ashley Leonard. So I think ultimately for this board, it would be great to be able to look at that map and dig in and talk about specific properties and get a little bit more detail about what Jackie is sharing. But is that something we could do in a, what do you call it? A closed session? Is that an appropriate use of that? I feel like it's.
It could be. I have to double check the 15 reasons you could do a closed session. But there is a variety, and I'll see if I can look at it, and I'll send them to you, and we can sort of chat about what you think would be appropriate. There's also, if you're not meeting as a quorum, you can also have sort of subcommittee, subgroup meetings. This is discuss stuff as long as you don't hit the quorum.
I think our quorum is pretty low, which is why I was wondering if we could do it in a closed session, but
no, there still might be a way to do closed session. I was just offering that up as an alternative.
Yeah, we can look. I can't remember if it's 2 people or 3 people. It's probably 3 people, but
hold on, you're a 7.
Low.
You have a full 7-person board now, though, right?
We do. I'd have to look at what our bylaws say.
I think your quorum would be 4, though, wouldn't it? Isn't it? Unless it's something radically
You would
different.
think so. Yeah, I'll have to double check. I remember this discussion when we.
If you have empty seats, then the number drops down because you don't have those seats full.
The quorum would be 4.
Yeah. So if you stay under 4, so it's like 3 of you meet, then you could sort of do it offline. And I mean, you should bring it back to the big group, but you could have sort of a side conversation about things. But I will also look at the closed session stuff.
Yeah, we could have a detailed brainstorming in a subcommittee, and then when we take it back to the full board, we still could go into a closed session because that would be a real estate discussion. Right?
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't want to do that in an open. Yeah.
What's the issue you're talking about? Wanting to discuss? I missed that somehow. The issue.
So the issue is if we're going to start taking a look at that Greenway map that we have and really kind of identifying key properties or key places that might be good, that's a sensitive sort of topic that we probably want to just be careful how we're discussing and in what kind of format.
Got it. Thank you.
No. Great question. How about, I just want to ask, go ahead, Linda.
The function of our board that deals with real estate, we would have the ability to go to a closed session to have a real estate discussion.
I think so. Yeah. And Ashley, well, I'll just check in with you to see if that fits. I know there's a bunch of definitions, like you said, 12 or 15, and I don't remember them. I did take the training, I promise, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. Okay. So that's good. Who kind of here right now would be interested in, if we had like a little subcommittee to do that, would be interested in that aspect of the board work? So Linda.
I would.
Trudy.
I mean, I also think I would be. I'm not exactly sure what it would entail, but it,
Yeah.
Well, as a lifelong Annapolitan, Jack,
I think you would be great.
Knowledge of
properties,
properties and kind of locations, I think would be helpful.
kind of,
Yeah.
we know
Okay.
about the properties, who owns them, how likely it would be, whether they're developable, you know, that, right? I mean, that's the kind of way we've talked
It's
about
helpful knowledge. Yeah, it's,
the green.
yeah.
I don't want to misrepresent my real estate knowledge of
It's
Annapolis,
okay.
but
Don't worry.
but I appreciate the vote of confidence.
Yeah, and the only reason I was asking, I wasn't going to necessarily set a list here, but I just seen how many of us were interested in that particular topic, and I figured it's probably most of us. Just thinking about the numbers kind of thing, and
So, yeah.
whether we would separate out or do this at a board meeting. So
I never thought when we did that before, we were saying anything very private, or I don't know. I mean, we just sort of talked about what we knew about the
I think-
history of the site, or who owned it, or I don't know.
well, we need to be probably a little bit more cautious, in particular if we are in this sort of Zoom environment where things are recorded, and it's, you know, you have more folks that are potentially joining and watching and all those kinds of good things.
Okay. I don't object either way. I didn't think we were revealing great straight secrets of what we knew as we talked about.
No, there's no
properties
secrets
to
though. It just-
connect. A lot of it,
It's more being sensitive to landowners, because it would be
Yes.
basically talking about private land that we're interested in, you know,
Yeah.
doing outreach to
Just
see if they want to conserve it.
It
Yeah.
can be a little bit sensitive when you start
okay.
pulling those kinds of records of people's property, and not everyone appreciates that,
Okay.
but these are good questions. No, don't ever hesitate.
It's not military, but it's just,
It is.
you know, yeah.
So that looks great. And then Hawkins Cove. So Jackie shared a little bit about that. So for those who aren't as familiar, Hawkins Cove is a property kind of near Truxton Park. One of the bigger ones left in the city that is still fairly natural. There's some sort of social trails through the property right now. So places where people walk to and from and through the property. And the city has had a grant with, I think, the Chesapeake Bay Trust to do some concept plans for that property and designs for some of the things that the community said they wanted to see. A living shoreline being one of those things. They thought about making those trails more official. And I'm probably blanking on a couple of other aspects, but for this board, we've been very interested in seeing that property eased, which means we'd have to have another entity hold that conservation easement, because the city can't hold an easement on itself. And so we've had conversations with MET about that, and are, I think, pretty close to being ready to start those conversations up again. It sounds like if you've got a pretty good concept plan at this point, Jackie, it might be time to do that. But I'll leave it to you guys.
I mean, we're going to do the project there, and I think we know what's the use is going to be. So
That's the
I think
main.
it's not premature to start that conversation.
So just waiting to see if there's another comment. So that's very exciting. For those of you who are new to the board, one of the holdups has been generally when you're going to do an easement, and particularly with this one, because there were some questions about the boundaries. You have to do a boundary survey that costs some funding. Previous years we didn't have that, but now the Critical Area Commission, which does what's called in lieu fees. So if a developer removes trees or does certain things, they have to pay into this fund or do other things. I'm kind of not giving you all the probably important pieces of that. But anyway, those funds can now be used for things like boundary surveys. So the city now has an MOU with the Critical Area Commission to allow the use of those funds for this great purpose, which allows us to move forward with doing conservation easements. And that in itself, getting that MOU took some time and a lot of work from the city and the Critical Area Commission. So that was a big kind of win for moving our goals forward. I know we're coming close to time here. Does anybody have any kind of questions at this point, or things that you want to toss out to the group to consider, things to talk about at our next meeting beyond what we've already discussed?
I'd like to talk about easement monitoring. I have
Oh,
to
thank you.
admit, I've really lost touch, and this is the time of year that I like to do it because I can't do my own gardening, and it's when you can see things. And I think I just left it as best I can recall, Janet. I think I said I'll pick up what others have,
Whatever's left.
but I don't have a clue what's going, what others picked, or I think it's I think we need a little discipline, maybe. Maybe everybody's doing something. I'm not doing anything yet. And shame on, I want to. I don't mind doing that. I like doing it, but could you, I don't know, resend the form and give us some
Yep.
instructions and maybe make some assignments or something? I mean, I don't know who signed up for what. So when I say, well, it wasn't quite fair, I just said, well, let them sign up and I'll do whatever you need for cleanup. But that didn't get me committed to anything yet, and I should be. So
I don't want to overwhelm you, Trudy, but yes, I can send that around again. I've got a couple of things I'll be going to see, and I'll check in with you just to see if like the ones that are left, if you feel comfortable with those.
Sure. I'm retired now, remember. I drive around.
This is your top priority.
Yeah, absolutely, along with several others.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, I'm sure.
and I don't know, do our new members, did somebody tell them they were inspectors? I never knew that when I joined the board, and I was so surprised and shocked that a volunteer was supposed to go out and inspect a site, but guess
I
you
think so.
Yeah.
I hope I meant to mention that to Patrick and Jack. Did that come across? I hope it did.
well, anyway.
It did. And
Yeah.
I'd be happy to go out and maybe with a current board member and kind of just show me the ropes on kind of what an inspection kind of looks like. So
Great. Okay.
I think just maybe an email to all of us and tell us where you think you are and what do we need to finish it up and when do we want to finish it up by, because it always lingers all year long if you don't give us deadlines, I think so. But this is the time of year to do it because you can actually see the land without all the leaves and
It's still
bushes
clear.
and everything.
Mhm.
And it's a boring time
And
of
you should-
year for outdoor things.
Yeah. And you shouldn't get poison ivy either.
Right.
That was
Maybe
nice.
no ticks and poison ivy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
Joanna, could I suggest that we do something on the Google Drive to track which easements are assigned to whom, and we could probably do it over email, but I don't know if there is a system already created, but if there is not, that might be helpful.
That is where that existing spreadsheet lives. It is a
Okay.
Google sheet right now.
Perfect.
And yes, I will shoot that around again to everybody.
So if you could include, I don't even, my life is so low tech, I don't even use Google, like that. So tell us where things and where do we go to see the boundaries? And I mean, just maybe a little crib sheet of, all right, here's what I've got, and here's what you have to do. And, it's not nothing long, just the steps to.
Yeah. And we do have the great sheet that Linda did a lot of the work to put that together, sort of I guess
maybe
that's a good way to call it.
Yeah,
No. It's we can send
but-
that around. Yeah, from Linda, sort of that crib sheet of what do we do when we monitor and where do you find stuff? And I'll double check that and I'll send that around again.
I have a
Um,
question.
Yeah.
I sent the GIS map layer for all the
Yes, you did.
easements in the city. And I got that from Sean. And I'm wondering, is that helpful to you, or are you looking for something different?
Well,
First of all, I would say that is a good locator. And so when
yes.
we're looking at the list of
Oh, yes.
easements and what we want to monitor, that helps us locate it in the city. And then what you would do is we'll pull, we need to pull down the site specific boundary map when you actually choose that location and you want to go monitor. So both
Okay.
helpful. Yeah.
So it works for looking at the boundaries of each easement.
So I think what you sent, I'll have to double check it, Racine, but I think that link from Sean is good, like Linda said, for us to figure out where generally the easements are within the city and how to get to them and take a look at them. But I believe those are the same boundaries that were drawn many, many, many years ago. And part of what we're hoping to do is to have somebody at the city take a look at the plats and make sure that the boundaries that are drawn currently for those easements are accurate. For example, when we got into the Kingsport, a couple of issues with that one, the boundaries weren't 100% accurate as to kind of which pieces of that neighborhood were and weren't in there. That's
Okay.
a little bit more painstaking of a process.
Okay.
Sorry. And what we talked about before is if there's somebody over there, I don't know if it'd be one of the Erics in planning or who would do that. But we could sort of send you the top priority ones to double check and just slowly work through that if you guys are able to do kind of, one at a time or.
About how many easements would you say? I mean, just a number ballpark.
I would say we're generally looking at 15 to 18
Okay.
probably.
Because that sounds like the job of an intern.
Yes.
If you've got one, yeah. it's a great
Well,
job.
that's a whole other thing, but yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, and I'm happy to chat with you.
I don't know as to the total number, but I will say when looking at your Google Excel spreadsheet of the easements to monitor, Karen and I we went out to Kingsport in advance of that. I thought, oh, well, let's just take a couple, other ones that are in the neighborhood close by. And I started downloading maps. And when I was with Karen, that's when she said, oh, there's several of those that aren't even really, conservation easement. It's like there are patches of grass adjacent to a village center that we don't really monitor.
And that's based on the map that Sean provided for us?
So I that might be a good conversation to have with Karen, because I think all those that are on the list have been monitored or they've been looked at. So
well, I see her point. I mean, because it's like these are the strips of grass that you see when you pull into a village center.
Mm-hmm. There's probably two of those. Yeah. I know one of the ones you're thinking about right now. Yeah. So I think it would be good for us to talk about whether or not that's, kind of a key priority to be working on or not. But
okay. I'd like to help you to the best of my ability to, better lock down these boundary maps. Keep me in the loop of your back and forth. And, we'll move forward and see what we can do. It would be a perfect project for an intern.
It would be great. Yeah. It would be really good.
What you've already done, Racine, is helpful because
it's super helpful.
All the locations on one map is helpful.
Okay, good.
And one that you can move around and play with. Yeah. So no, that was
good.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I know we were at 7:30. Anything else that's top of mind for anybody here? It's okay if it is, if you want to toss out something.
Dinner.
Dinner. Yes, that's more important. Yes, I see. I think Jackie's cat is having dinner. She's beating all of us to it. Depressing, but yeah.
Black tail go by.
Exactly. Oh, she just turned off her camera. Well, oh, and you're on mute there, Jackie.
The animals started to bother me. It was getting too late.
Yeah, understandable. Well, thank you guys for hanging in there for this. Welcome again to the new board members. It's really exciting to have you guys on. And I think it would be wonderful if we're able to all get together in person and have some of these great discussions moving forward. With that, could I have a motion to, I was going to say to dismiss. That's not the right word. A motion
Adjourn.
to adjourn. Thank you. Apologies.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Linda. Could I have a second? All right, I'll second the motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you guys so much. It's been great. I look forward to catching up.